Once again, good morning, everyone. Let us start with today's discussion. And first, let me start sharing my screen. Please let me know once the screen is visible to you all. I hope the screen is visible, people.
Yes, your screen is visible.
Yeah. So, just to give you a review of what was discussed in the yesterday's class. So, in the yesterday's class, we started with first we started with discussing the syllabus that we are going to be covering in the present Power BI course. And then we started with defining and understanding the business intelligence. And after that, we went on to understand the high level business intelligence architecture that is widely used in most of the companies. And in there, we understood what is the staging environment, what is the data warehouse, and what is this particular thing. Okay. And then we also got to discuss about the data warehouse and the subsets of the data warehouse, that is data marts. Okay. And then we went on to discuss the different BI tools that are available for usage in the market. And also we discussed about the components of Power BI, okay, and their significance, like Power BI Desktop, Power BI Service, Power BI Mobile App, Power BI Report Builder, okay. And once we were done with that, we discussed also about the data sets, visualizations. I mean, the meanings of this. What is the data set? What is the visualization, the tiles, reports, and the dashboards? Okay. And we discussed about the three views of Power BI Desktop. Once you open the Power BI Desktop, you will be greeted with three views. That is the data view, wherein you can actually see the tables, report view, where you can see the visuals, and the model view, where you can see the data model. Okay. And let's start with opening the Power BI Desktop. And before that, let me also show you how to install Power BI Desktop in your system. I hope most of you might have already installed Power BI Desktop in your systems, people, or not. So you can install, I mean, you can download and install in two ways. One of the way is to go to Microsoft Store, which is which you can find here. Okay, you just click on Microsoft Store. Okay, and then there you can search for Microsoft Power BI Desktop. And once that is done, you can directly install this one. Okay, now in my case, it's already installed, but in your systems, you can click on install. There'll be install button here, and the installation is quite straightforward. There's nothing like, I mean, there's no workaround methods or something like that. It's a very simple thing. If you click on install, it will get installed in your system, as simple as that. Okay. And another way to install would be to just Google Microsoft Power BI Desktop download and open the first website that that is given as the Google output, and go to that and just uh, install Microsoft Power BI Desktop, because it will take you to Microsoft Power BI website itself. Okay, so that also is one more way to go. So this is how you can install PBI Desktop in your system. Now, let me open the Power BI Desktop. Yeah. We also discussed about how the workflow happens in Power BI Desktop. Okay, so today we'll start with getting the data from different sources into Power BI desktop. Okay, now for that, first let me open the Power BI desktop. It's open now. And yeah, now this, as I already told, is the Power BI desktop GUI, and it has three views. Presently, we are in the report view, but there's also table view. Right now, you cannot see anything in the table view because we have not got any tables into this yet. Okay. And we also have the data model view where you can see the data model. Again, the data model currently is absent because we don't have any tables in here yet. Okay. So let's go get some data. And today I'll show you how to connect to different kind of data from Power BI. Okay. So first of all, what you need to do is to bring the data into the Power BI, you can directly go to in Home tab, you have an option, Get Data. Okay. And today we will be connecting to different type of data sources, namely CSV. Then we'll get the Excel workbook. Then we will connect to some of the databases like Microsoft SQL Server database, then MySQL Server database, and also Microsoft Access database. And I'll also show you how to connect to the web database if it is free to use. Okay, so we'll start with getting the data from Excel or maybe the CSV flat file. Okay, so first of all, I'll go to this, and I'll if you click on Get Data, initially you'll be shown these many data sources. But if you click on More, what will happen is a completely new window will pop up, and here you can see there are these many data sources that are available to be connected from Power BI. And right now there are more than 100 data sources through which you can get data into the Power BI. You have direct connections for that, and that is one of the reasons Power BI is one of the, not one of the, it is the most widely used BI tool right now in the market or any industry. Okay, so first of all, what I wanted to do is I wanted to get the CSV or flat file. Okay, so I will click on text or CSV. Okay, and once I do that, I'll click on connect. Now I should be giving it the path where I have stored my file in this system. Okay, so I'll give it the path. So I will try to get this order underscore CSV. And if I click on this, and if I click on open, now it is establishing the connection. Yeah. Now here you can see it is giving you the preview of the table that you're trying to download or you're trying to import into the Power BI. So it basically shows you some of the basic features of this. Basically, it is trying to show you what's the column headers. Okay, and it is also showing you some of the rows. Okay, and this is not the complete table. This is just based on first 200 rows. Okay, so the delimiter it shows is a comma because CSV is nothing but the comma separated value file. Okay, and here once you're done with this, you can either go to transform data or you can click on load data. I'll tell you what happens if you do either of those. First of all, if you click on load data like I'm doing right now, let's see, for example, now I'll be getting that data directly into the Power BI desktop. Okay. And let it happen. Now you see, it says there are errors. Okay. So if I click on that, it will show me the errors. And the errors are due to the fact that there are certain transformations which are required in order to get data into Power BI desktop. Okay. And that's the reason we most of the times what we do is, let me show you that. Start the changes. So let me get that once again. So I'll go to text and CSV, which is available here itself. Now I'll again bring the order.csv, and here I'll not bring it directly into the Power BI desktop, okay, but I'll try to transform it and bring it, okay. So when I click on transform, it will not give me error, but it will directly take me to this window. Now, can anyone tell me what is this window? We discussed this yesterday. What is this? Yeah. Yes. Nobody's got a clue on this? This is Power Query Editor. This is nothing but the ETL tool of Power BI, where we can do the transformations. Okay, where we can do the transformations. Okay, now here. So let's, so this file is here now. There is this order CSV which we brought earlier, and there's also this orders.csv which we brought second time. Okay. Now the thing is, you can go and do the transformations here, and then again load the file by pressing on closing and apply. Okay, but yeah, this is the way to bring a CSV file into the Power BI desktop. Okay, you just click on get data, then go to CSV and point it to the file that you have stored in your desktop, the CSV which you want to bring in, and that's the way to do it. Okay, now let me close it and let me try how to bring the Excel. Okay, so I'll discard the changes once again. Yeah, now I'll go and get one Excel workbook. Okay, so the way to do it is you can either select this from here, or you can go to more options and you can select it here. Alternately, the Excel workbook option is available here as well. So you can directly click on here. So now, if you see, I'm pointing it to one of the Excel files that are stored, and I'll click on this. I'll click on open. Now what will happen? Let me show you. It will take me to that Excel workbook, and it will ask me what all sheets in that particular Excel workbook I want to bring in. Okay, so you can select all of them, or you can select only the tables or sheets that you want to get in here. Okay, and again, the thing is simple. You just need to click on load or transform data to bring that into Power BI desktop. Okay. And yeah, if there are errors, again, it will give you some of the errors, but yeah, errors you can always get rid of by going to Power Query Editor. That we'll discuss later. But right now we are concerned about importing the data into the Power BI. So this is how to get the data from the Excel data source. Okay. And now let me show you how to connect to the databases. Okay. And for example, if let's say we have to connect to SQL Server, or let's say MySQL Server, then how to do that? The first thing to be noted is your SQL Server should be running in order to get the data from SQL Server. Okay, so let me start the SQL Server, that is SQL Server Management Studio. And first of all, let me open that app. Yeah. And now the thing is, you should always note that this is your server name. Okay, this is your SQL Server name. And I'm telling you this because while bringing the data into the Power BI, you have to enter the server name, as simple as that. Okay. Now simply click on connect so that your SQL server will start. And yeah, you can see the different databases that are available in your SQL server here. Now let's try getting one of the database into the Power BI. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll click on get data again in the Power BI. Okay, and now I'll go to more. And now you can see here that you have the option of SQL Server Database. Okay, you can click on SQL Server Database in here and click on connect. Yeah, and now once this is done, you need to enter the server name and the database that you want to get in. Okay, so first of all, let me enter the server name. So I've stored my server names here. So this is my SQL server name. It'll be different for your systems. Okay, so I'll just copy this and paste it here. Okay, and yeah, let me bring in the database. Okay, and as I showed you, there are certain databases here. Let me try bringing in AdventureWorks 2014. Okay, so I'll click here. I'll get in AdventureWorks 2014. Okay, and yeah, I can directly go and import this into this. I'll click on OK. Okay, and once that happens, it will take a bit of time and you will be greeted with this window. And here, basically, it is showing the number of tables or views or stored procedures that are there in this particular database. Which database? The AdventureWorks 2014 is what we have got. Okay, and from here, you can select any number of tables that you want to get into the Power BI. For example, let me bring in certain tables. Like for example, I'll try bringing in this, and this, and yeah, I'll select certain tables, and I'll try bringing something related to production, then the sales, and sales order detail. Okay, so if I do that, and if I click on, let's say, load, okay, then all those tables will be loaded into the Power BI. Let me show you. See, it is trying to load all the tables. Okay, and all these tables are brought into Power BI. Okay, now you see in the right pane, you have all these tables listed. And if you want to see those table structures or tables yourself, then you can go to the table view. And if you click on each one of those tables will be displayed. Okay, like this. Okay, so this is the way to bring the data into the Power BI from SQL. But there's more to it. Let's say you want to write the query or SQL query while bringing in the data. Okay, and you want to bring only some columns, or let's say some filtered data, not the whole table. Okay, so that can be done as well. Now let's say, for example, now let's say if I want to bring this sales order detail table, okay, and from that I want to bring in only the number of records where, let's say, order quantity is greater than 10. Okay, now you can see there is this order quantity. Okay, order quantity column. Now what I want to do is I want to get in the records only where the order quantities are greater than 10. Okay, And I hope you people have the knowledge of how to write the SQL query. What SQL query can be written for this? Anyone? It's a very simple one.
Select start from that table where order quantity is greater than 10.
Yeah, okay, so that's what we will do. Okay, and for that, what I'll do now is let this table be here, but let me also show you how to get that thing. Okay, so I'll click on get data and I'll click on SQL Server. You can see that SQL Server is visible here as well. Okay, so I'll click on that. And first of all, I need to mention the server name. So I'll mention the server name. That is this. Sorry. And I'll have to mention the database name. Okay, so Adventure Works 2040. Okay, and here you have the advanced option. And in advanced option, what you can do is basically you can write the SQL query here itself. Okay, now let me write that myself. Okay, so I want only the records where order quantity is greater than or equal to 10. So let me write that. Select start from what's the table name there? Let me check. I think it is sales.sales order detail. Sales.sales order detail. Yeah. Sales.sales order detail. Okay. Where what is the order quantity name? Let me check. Order quantity. We load this table in here. Yeah. Order quantity column name is order QTY. Okay. Where order QTY is greater than or equal to 10. Okay. And if I try clicking on OK now let me show you what happens. Now again, you see the table has been loaded, but the important thing to be noted here is that if I click on load now, and if I go to that particular table, let me show you that. Yeah. Now the table is here, and the table right now is named as query 1, which has been loaded. Okay. Now let me go to query 1. Okay. And here you can see the order quantity is always greater than or equal to 10. Only those records have been imported. Rest have been filtered. Okay. So you can, bottom line is you can write SQL queries as well while importing the data into the Power BI from the databases. Hope this is clear how to bring the SQL database, Microsoft SQL Server database. Any doubts with respect to this, people?
I have a doubt of when you were loading data from CSV and it was throwing one error.
Yeah,
And
I'll show you that. The thing is, when there are errors, the thing is there is problem in the transformation steps. Okay, and to clear that error, we have to go to transformation steps, and we need to clear that in Power Query Editor. Okay, so Power Query Editor we are going to use once we complete this importing of the data. Okay, but yeah, only thing is, if it is showing the error, you need to go to transformation, I mean the Power Query Editor. There you need to clean the data, and if yeah, the data is clean, I mean if all the data types are correct and everything is perfect, then it will be loaded in a correct manner. Else, if it has any problems in with respect to the transformation steps, then it will show you the errors. Okay. Nonetheless, I'll show you how to clear the errors as well. But right now, you just remember how to bring in the or import the data. Is that clear?
Yeah, it's
We'll
clear.
discuss how to bring, how to do cleaning of the data in very much detail. Okay. But right now, we are just focused on bringing the data into the Power BI. Okay. Any other doubts, people? Anyone else?
From where we can get that
Hmm.
database, the one that you shown, adventure work?
Yeah. See, the thing is, first of all, you need to store those databases into your, you need to have those databases in your SQL server. Okay. So these databases you can get in, get from many sources. These are free to use, available from Google itself. Okay. You can search them, you'll get them, but I can send that as well. Okay. I'll share the database, not a problem. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Fine. So this is about bringing the data from SQL Server. Now let's try bringing the data also from MySQL. Okay. So for that, again, MySQL should be running. Okay. So I'll click on MySQL Workbench. Okay. And here, I'll try loading this. Okay. And it'll ask me the password. The password should be your system password. Okay. Once that is done, it will open, and you first always have to see the server status. The server status, whether it is in the running status or not. Right now, you see it is in a running status. Okay. Now, there are certain databases here as well. Like if you see, there's a sales database. Let's try getting this sales database into Power BI. Okay. So now, again, I'm going to Power BI desktop, and now I'll go to get data, and now I need to select what? MySQL server. Okay. So I'll go to database here. Okay. And there is MySQL database. I'll just simply click on MySQL database. I'll click on connect. Okay. And now again, you need to enter the server name and database name. Okay. So I'll enter the server name of MySQL. That is this one. And after that, I'll enter the database name, that is sales. Okay. Now, again, as you see, it is giving you the opportunity to choose the tables from that database. What all tables that you want to bring in from that particular database. Okay. You can select them and you can load them. Okay. Like this. Okay. And here, again, I'll go to load directly. Now you see those tables are added here. Okay. And even here as well, that is while bringing the data even from MySQL server or MySQL workbench, again, you have the opportunity to write the query and get only the data that you want. For example, let me open the sales transactions table. Okay. Let me go to the data view. Let me go to sales transaction table. And let me say if I want to again apply certain filters onto the data that I'm trying to bring in. Okay. So for example, let's presume that if I want to bring in the data where the currency is only INR and the sales quantity is greater than or equal to 10. Okay, then how do we do that? Okay, let's try figuring that out. So again, I'll go to this home tab, in that get data, and in that I'll go to MySQL, that is here. I'll click on connect, and you can give the server name and the database name, that is sales. And again, in the advanced options, you have the option to write the SQL query. And the SQL query that I want to write now is, just let me check. Here, the sales table. Okay. So I will write something like, select star from sales dot, what's the name? Sales transactions. Where currency is equal to INR and what? Order quantity. It is order quantity greater than equal to 10. Let me try this. Maybe I have written the table name in a different manner. Let me check. Yeah, I think it's not sales transactions, it's sales dot transactions only. Okay, let me check. So I'll try to edit this. So it is sales dot transactions. Okay, you click on OK now. Again, here the order quantity column is different. Let me check what's the order quantity column name. I've got it different here. Order, sorry, it's the sales quantity. Okay, so I'll check sales under quantity. Yeah, sales. Sales underscore quantity, and now it should work. Yeah. Now again, if you see, you have been given the view pertaining to the filter you have applied. Okay, and again, you can directly go and load this data. Okay. So yeah, now again, if you go to query 2, that is the table which has been loaded now. Now, if you see, the currency is only INR. Okay, and again, the sales quantity is minimum 10. Okay, nothing less than that. Okay. Yeah, so this is the way to bring in the data from, I mean, till now we have we have brought the data from CSV, SQL, and MySQL. Okay, and let's try bringing data from one more source. And let me try bringing it from, there's one more database from the Microsoft, and it is called as Access Database. Okay, you can directly click on Access Database and click on Connect, and you can point to the file where the Access Database is stored. So now I've stored some Northwind database in here. I'll click on that. I'll open that. This is Microsoft Access database. It is showing a bit of error. Let me do one thing. And it usually happens if you're trying to get the data from different sources. Let me check what's the problem here. Okay. So not registered on the local machine. Okay. Let me click on edit. And this is fine. Try this. Okay. Let me go to file and options and settings. And sometimes what happens is if you try to connect to different data sources, it will throw you the errors sometimes. So what you need to do is you need to go to the data source settings, and there you can click on clear permissions. Okay. And we can do this as well. Okay. So yeah, this is the thing. And let me also check that particular file, that is Northwind database, whether it's opening or not. Okay. So it has different tables. Yes, this is working fine. And this can be plugged in. Okay. Let me check. So I'll again go to the Power BI desktop. I'll go to get data. And again, here I'll go to Microsoft Access database. I'll click on connect and I'll click on the Northwind. Again, it is showing the same error. The Microsoft OLD2 provider is not registered on the local machine. Now, the thing what has happened here is recently I have updated my Power BI desktop. The thing is every month Power BI releases new updates, and that might be the reason why I'm not able to connect to this, because previously I did bring this database into the Power BI, and I think this particular OLEDV2 that needs to be updated. Okay, so that's the reason I think it is showing this error. And the way to do that is it is saying to download the client software, visit this. Okay, so Microsoft Access that needs to be updated in my system as well. Okay, nonetheless, this should work fine. Okay, if your softwares are updated, okay, and you should be able to directly get that Microsoft Access database as well in your Power BI desktop. Okay, and let me also connect to some of the web database. Let me open the file first. Okay, so let's say if certain website is free to use, I mean the data there is not uh, subjected to security. Okay, so for example, that data from website also you can get into Power BI. So you should go to get data and you can click on web. Okay, and then I can directly enter the website address. Once you do that and click on OK, you will be taken to that particular website. Just a second, it's waiting for it to connect it. Yeah, it has connected now. I'm just trying to load the preview of those tables which come from that particular website. Let it get loaded. Yeah. Now, if you see, there are certain tables that you can get from that particular website as well. So this website basically gives us the population growth rate throughout the years. Okay. So let me get one or two tables from here. You can directly click on them and you can load them like this. Okay. So this is the way people to get the data from different sources into the Power BI. There are few more sources, like there is SharePoint, okay, and there's also the some of the other databases, like there's Cosmo DB, there's Oracle DB. You can get data from all those databases into the Power BI by using the method that I just showed, okay, and that is basically this thing. Okay, you can bring the data from different sources, and this is very important because in let's say if you're facing the interviews, they will ask you this question: how many data sources have you worked on in Power BI? So you can definitely say the SQL Server database, the MySQL Server database, and CSV flat files, Excel files, and all those things. Okay, so you can tell them the answer and you know how to get the data from those particular sources. Any doubts till now, people?
Pawan, suppose we directly click on transform data and we don't load the data, so that data won't get loaded into Power BI, and that data will be shown in that Power Query editor only, right?
Yes, it will take you
It
to
won't.
Power Query editor and
Mhm.
you can do certain transformations there. And when you click on close and apply from there, then again, that data will be loaded with completed transformation steps into Power BI. Hope that is clear. But right now, you don't worry about that. We will be doing the transformation steps in the Power Query editor, okay, in very much detail.
Yeah, means I just need to understand that unless we load it, that data won't be replicated into Power BI, right?
That's right. Yes.
Okay. And for SQL Server or any databases, you shown the tables and views, but it
Mhm.
was also listing functions and procedures also. So it also allows those objects to.
Yes, it does allow stored procedures and functions to be brought into Power BI. That's true. Yeah. And let's say if you create one view and store in your database, that view also will be listed. Yeah.
Yeah, but it makes sense with tables and view, but did not understand how it will work with procedures and functions, because these are like, these are the objects like functions returns a value sometimes or sometimes tables. So
Mhm.
whenever it returns a table or any data set, then it makes sense that it will show that data set. But what if it returns a single value? So that function also allowed in Power BI to like.
Yes, that also is allowed. Even the single value also will be visible. Okay. So yeah, you can get the whole data model as well, or the whole data set also into the Power BI by selecting all of those. Okay. And you can actually do the data modeling in Power BI. As I showed you, I mean, we still have not done, I mean, gone to that step. But if you go to the data modeling, the tables that you have brought in here, now you see they have been randomly connected by themselves. Okay. But you can manually connect these tables via different primary and secondary keys. Okay. So that's the way it works. Yeah.
And for the web data, that data needs to be structured. So from that we are
Yes, yes.
from.
It needs to be structured. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, so that's about bringing the data from different sources. And there is different storage modes in Power BI. Now, and this also is called as different import modes. Okay. So there are different ways to get in the data into the Power BI. I'm not talking about the different sources now. I'm talking about the way in which you bring the data into the Power BI. Okay. Let me show you what I mean. Now, let's say, for example, I again want to get the data from the SQL server. Okay. So I'll enter my server name. And again, I'll enter this thing, the database. Okay. And now here, if you see, there are two ways available, data connectivity mode. One is import, another is direct query. Okay. The import mode is given by default. But what happens if you click on direct query? Okay, let me show you that. If I click on OK, and yeah, I'll try to use my current credentials, or let me do one thing. The direct query, for direct query, I'll show you one more file itself so that it makes sense. I'll open new Power BI instance. Yeah. Now here I'll try to bring the data via direct query. So yeah, I'll go to get data and I'll go to SQL Server. Then I'll enter these two things. And now let me use the direct query for that. Okay. So it'll ask me this. I'll use my current credentials. Sometimes it gives you this error again. Okay. And let me, for that sake, I'll go to file. Yeah, no, yeah, this it is gone anyways. So it is asking me again to bring in the certain tables. Okay, so if I select certain tables here, let's say, for example, sales customer, then let's say sales order detail. Okay, and few more like this one. Okay, so if I try to load it, and now it is trying to create the connection. Yes. Now, if I go to the Power BI desktop, can you see something is missing in here in this view?
Your Power Query is missing.
No, Power Query is not missing. Power Query will be appearing only when we go to transform. Okay. But something important is missing here. Can you see the data view in here? How many views are there in Power BI desktop? 3 views, right? Report view, model view, and there's one more view, right? Data view. That data view is missing, right? Yes or no?
Yeah.
So now the thing is, if you, and one more thing, if you go to model view, each of these tables are highlighted by this blue color at the top. Okay. But if I go to my other Power BI file, wherein I brought the data from import mode, that is not the case. Can you see this? These are just shown like this. But if you brought it by direct query, they'll be shown by this highlighted blue color at the top. Now I'll tell you the real difference between the import mode and the direct query mode. Now, when you bring the data into the Power BI, by import mode, it means you are actually bringing the data in Power BI desktop and storing it in Power BI desktop. Okay, let me repeat it. When you bring the data in Power BI by import mode, you actually are bringing the data into Power BI desktop and storing it in Power BI desktop. Okay, whereas when you bring in the data via the direct query mode, then what you're doing is you are just establishing the connection of Power BI with the backend data sources. Okay, data is not coming into the Power BI and getting stored in Power BI desktop. Instead, Power BI is just establishing the connection to the backend from where the data is coming. Okay, and that is the prime difference. And in in import mode, what happens is that, let me open the Excel to explain. Yeah. In import mode, as I said, the data is brought into Power BI and stored into Power BI desktop. Okay, and not just that, it also is able to compress that data. Okay, as far as the memory is concerned, that data will be compressed, and this compression happens due to one engine of Power BI, which is called as Vertipack compressor engine. Okay, so in short, what happens in import mode is the data comes in Power BI and it's stored in Power BI desktop, and not just that, it is compressed by the Vertipack compressor engine of Power BI desktop. Any doubts on this? Yes.
Pawan, do we have any, a certain ratio that suppose this much of data, its size is, let's see, 1
Yeah,
GB,
that is
then the
there. That is there. I'll explain it. Okay. But the way the data is brought into the Power BI, that is clear.
yeah.
Okay. Now, if we talk about the direct query mode, here what happens? The data, let's say if you're bringing the data, I mean, you're using the direct query mode, and let's say you're connecting it to SQL data source. So the thing is, data stays in SQL only. You are only establishing the connection from PBI to SQL. Okay. And the main thing is that, okay, now this is very important. In import mode, let's say, okay, in import mode, let's say you have brought in the data from backend from, let's say, SQL database. Then let's say you have made the changes in the backend. Let's say in the backend that is in SQL, if you have added certain new columns or new records, okay, those will not be immediately reflected in Power BI unless you click on this refresh button, which is visible here. Am I clear on that?
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas if I come to this view, that is it, when I talk about the direct query mode, as soon as you make the changes in the backend, what will happen? The front end also changes. And why? Because here the data is actually in the backend itself. There's just a connection. As soon as the data in the backend changes, the front end will reflect the same. Hope that is clear. This is one of the prime differences between import mode and direct query mode. Any doubts in this, people?
In direct query mode, if we make any changes at Power BI end, So will it get reflected in?
No. If you make any changes in the, this is important as well. No matter which mode you are in, if you make any changes in the front end, those will not go to backend. Those changes will not be reflected in backend. Clear? So backend stays intact as it is, no matter which mode you are getting the data into Power BI. Is that clear, people?
But it will remain in Power BI, right? Power BI
Yeah.
desktop.
In Power BI desktop, it will the changes will remain.
Mhm.
Okay, because in Power BI desktop, as I said, we have a small ETL tool here, which is called as transform query, or it's also called as Power Query Editor. Now, what happens whenever you do any changes? Let me show you, for instance. Okay, for example, if let's say the sales order detail, I do a certain transformation. For example, if I remove this table, if I remove this column, okay, so let me try doing that. If I remove this column, now can you see that step is getting added here, right? And now if I press close and apply, now I'll tell you the workflow, what is happening. Okay, the data is connected to backend, but before coming into Power BI, there is some transformation that is happening. What is that transformation? That column will be deleted. Hope that is clear.
Yeah.
This one, here, this removed column. Okay, so this is like automation. Whatever applied steps you do, okay, and if you press close and apply after that, those will be reflected in Power BI desktop. Workflow is clear now?
Yeah.
Okay, so that is, yeah, I was trying to explain here. So that is one of the prime differences between import mode and direct query mode. Okay, and yes, one more thing is, as I said, in import mode, you can see all the views, that is report view, data view, and model view, whereas in direct query mode, you will be having only two views, that is report mode and model view. You cannot see the tables in Power BI. Okay, so now let's try discussing the differences in very much detail. Okay, now the first thing, as you asked, is there any limit of the data which can be brought into Power BI in import mode? So for premium license, the size of the data set that can be brought into Power BI is 10 GB. And believe me, 10 GB is actually more than enough. Okay, if let's say you are bringing the data which is of the size even let's say 5 GB, then it means that the number of records in your table are somewhere near almost 80 to 100 million rows. Okay, and that is a big data. Okay, so yeah, in import mode, there is a bit of limit, that is 10 GB, but whereas in direct query, there's no limit. Whatever data is in the backend, you can connect to it no matter its size. Okay, now there is this one more thing. When you are using the import mode, you can import the data from multiple sources. Now, what do I mean by this? What I mean is, some tables you can get it from CSV files, some of them you can get from Excel, and some of the data you can bring in from SQL Server. Whereas if you're in direct query mode, your data must come from one single source. Okay, there cannot be multiple sources, or there cannot be multiple backend sources. Okay, so that is one of the important thing. Then the next thing, the performance of the data model, how will it be in both the modes? In import mode, it'll be high performance, whereas in direct query mode, it depends on how fast your server is. And let's say if you're bringing the data from SQL Server, your SQL Server needs to be fast. Okay, if that is taking a heavy load and if it gets slow, then same will be reflected in Power BI as well. Okay, so that is one of the differences as well. And this, as I said, I already discussed. If you do any changes in the backend while using the direct query, those will be immediately reflected in Power BI. Okay, whereas if you do any changes in the import mode, they will not be reflected in Power BI until you do manual refresh. Okay, so that is also the thing to be noted. Okay, and in import mode, the data will be stored in Power BI, whereas in direct query mode, data will not be stored in Power BI. And also it is important to note that in here, the data will not just be stored, but it will be compressed and stored. And the thing which is responsible for compression is Vertipack compressor engine of Power BI. Okay. And yes, maximum there will be 48 refreshes that can be done per day while using the import mode. And that too, if you are having premium capacity license. If you're having pro license, then only 10 refreshes per day are possible. Okay. But if you're in direct query, you can do the refresh as often as 15 minutes. And let's say you open the file again, it will be refreshed once again. Every time you open the file, the data you will be getting is the refreshed one when you are using the direct query. Okay. Now, there are certain advantages for import mode. Now, as far as Power Query Editor is concerned, import mode supports all kind of transformations, whereas some of the transformations are not possible in direct query mode. Similarly, all the DAX functions will be supported in import mode, whereas some of the DAX functions will not be supported in here. Okay, and importantly, the calculated tables can be calculated or created in import mode, and they are not supported in direct query mode. Okay, and there are certain furthermore differences, okay, which are enlisted here, so you can go through them. Okay, so this is the elaborate difference between direct query mode and import mode. And now there's also this live connection. Now, since I think it's already time, can we discuss live connection in tomorrow's class? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
So we will do that. And yeah, we'll also discuss about this one more thing. Okay. But yeah. Any doubts with respect to what was covered today, people?
No.
Okay. Thank you. So let me stop sharing my screen and I'll stop the recording as well.